Gregg Lewis gained some national and even international notoriety a few years back when he initiated Roanoke's Cradle to Cradle, or C2C, competition, which encouraged energy-efficient, sustainable home designs. A prototype was then built in Roanoke. Designing structures more in tune with the environment is the mission for Smith Lewis Architecture in Salem, run by Gregg Lewis and his wife Jennifer. Both are architects that met in school at Yale University. Gregg Lewis attended Yale after studying art and architectural history at Trinity College in Connecticut. Now a sought-after speaker, Lewis worked for several firms in Roanoke before Smith Lewis Architecture made its debut in 2003. The lead accredited architect has been noted as one of the Roanoke Valley's top professionals under the age of 40, has been honored several times for his work, and has served on numerous boards in the Valley. Gregg Lewis, welcome to the interview.
Thank you, Gene.
We were talking before we went on the air, and you and Jennifer, your wife, are Smith Lewis Architecture.
Right.
And you were saying that you're more of an artsy type guy. You went to school for art history before architecture.
That's correct.
Jennifer's more of the technical end. So does that work out, kind of balance each other out?
It's an excellent balance. It's a good marriage, as I like to say. It keeps us focused on our areas of strength within the way the firm operates, which is beneficial.
So when you look at a potential project, is she looking more on technical ends and you're thinking more outside the box, perhaps? Or
we've found a way to balance this work in such a way that areas where she needs some backup on the art side or drawings, renderings, etc., I'm able to facilitate that, and vice versa. When I need some building science questions answered, she's been excellent in supporting those needs.
And I was reading something you sent me to talk about you and Jennifer. You like to design buildings that respond intelligently to the environment. What does that mean in your estimation?
I think what's happened, certainly in the last generation, is architects have lost their focus on making buildings work with the world around us. I think engineering in general and heating and ventilating systems have become so advanced that what's happened is I think architects have increasingly relied on that technology to ignore the sun, essentially, and how the sun tracks across the sky in summertime and in wintertime. And what's resulted from that, I guess, is that buildings have lost some of the flavor that they had historically when architects and builders had to be more thoughtful about the way Mother Nature was operating in the climate that the buildings were being built. And so what I see happening and what we're trying to do is to bring the industry back full circle toward responding in this more intelligent way, more thoughtful way to the way that the natural cycle works in nature and in the climate.
And when you have more efficient energy systems, you can build bigger and bigger houses. Maybe it was a sign of our post-war affluence, perhaps World War II. But it does seem for a while. I know you hosted an event a couple years ago with, I think, a woman who wrote a book about going back to smaller houses.
That's right. That's right.
Do you see somewhat of a trend, maybe not smaller but more efficient houses, Gregg?
I do think so. I think that there's been a lot of talk about it, and what I'm hoping is going to happen is that we'll move more quickly beyond the talking stage into the stage where we're actually taking advantage of some of the most current technologies, and rather than using those technologies to build larger houses that meet energy efficiency standards of, say, building a 2,500 square foot house because we can do that and use the same amount of energy that we might have in prior years to build a 1,500 square foot house. Where we're going with this, I hope, is in fact building smaller, building more efficiently overall. Sarah Susanka is the architect you reference, and we're happy to say that one of our earliest residential projects is actually selected in Sarah's newest book, Not So Big Remodeling. So it's happening, and as far as I'm concerned, I'd like to see it happen a little more quickly.
That's what I wanted to ask you about, Gregg. When I think, especially when the LEED project started out, the materials were, I heard 10, 20% higher. That is coming down. I guess it's an economies of scale thing. I mean, for energy efficient homes and even LEED buildings, whether it's commercial or residential, are we getting, do you think, past the talking points where people understand, or the talking or the fad stage, where people understand this is something that's important to sustainability?
I think that that's exactly what's happening. I think we're seeing, simply from a supply and demand standpoint, what we're seeing is that as folks become increasingly aware of the issues related to sustainability, environmental concerns, climate change, what have you, that they have a role in addressing their own lives and how they can positively impact the world around them. And so programs like LEED, there are other platforms out there that that begin to quantify or qualify quote-unquote green building. The effort by the homeowner or the building owner increasingly is moving in this direction towards green. So the evolution of this is exciting, and I think that we're really well beyond now the phase or fad stage of green building into this becoming the next generation mainstream building strategy.
You garnered some international attention even a couple years ago when you kind of masterminded the Cradle to Cradle experience here, a design competition that brought in designs from all over the world, Gregg, schools, architectural firms, to build a house, and the project house was built, I think, on Gilmer Avenue in Roanoke, which just sold, I think. Sustainable, recyclable. Talk about that concept and what you hope it leads to.
Well, as we've discussed previously, the LEED platform and Earthcraft similarly have developed a very good, what I would refer to as a baseline for quantifying green building strategies. And what Bill McDonough and Michael Braungart have done with their book, Cradle to Cradle, Remaking the Way We Make Things, is they've actually provided for us in the building industry, and I think in commercial industries in general, is a strategy for true sustainability for the future. So when you have 6 billion people occupying the planet, and that number obviously is growing, you have to address the way commercial activity is conducted that responds intelligently to increasing demands on our resources. Cradle to Cradle, and the reason that I took that idea forward and used that as the strategy for the designers that were working on this competition was that this is the next generation challenge, I think, for all of us. And Cradle to Cradle is going to be the way, I believe, continue to believe, is going to be the way that we're going to have to operate in the future. So, lay it out very simply. Things like LEED, recycling our trash at home, newspapers, cans, bottles, etc. Those are the fundamental starting points for how we're going to do this. Ultimately, what we're after are automobiles that are 100% recyclable, buildings that themselves and their component parts are 100% recyclable, so that what we're going to do is create a closed loop system rather than the linear production system, which is take raw materials, add energy, produce products, use those products, and when they're no longer utile, taking them and throwing them into a landfill or incinerating them. That what we really are after are products that we can recycle in a closed loop and reuse forever. And as a strategy, one doesn't have to think about that too much to understand the value of that.
Our guests today have been Stan Brakel, chairman of the board for Brakel Incorporated, and Salem architect Gregg Lewis. I'm Gene Marrano. You can look for me in the Roanoke Star-Sentinel, Play-by-Play magazine, and Valley Business Front, and listen for me on WVTF Public Radio. Until next time, take care.